Okay, so it looks like we are live. Yay! I'm waiting for it to pop up on my channel so I can mute it really quick. Okay, there it is. It looks like Paula might be. There we go. I think we're good. Okay, cool. So, welcome to the first Goth Lit Club live show. It's the Mexican Gothic live show. I'm so excited to do this because I totally did this on a whim, the club and everything. So I'm just glad that it like manifested into something. So I've been really excited about that, and I've been really excited about reading Mexican Gothic. So I'm so glad that so many people were willing to join and read and talk about it and all that good stuff. I also haven't done any lives in a while, so this will be interesting. But I'm gonna have everybody just introduce themselves really quick. I'm Kate. This is my channel, Chapter Kate, and that's all. So, whoever wants to introduce themselves next.
I can
Taylor,
go.
do you want to go first?
Okay, I can go.
Sure.
I'm Taylor from Page Screen Taylor. That's also the name of my YouTube channel, and I basically post about books on all genres, and I do a lot of classics and romance reading. So that's me.
And hi everyone, my name is sorry, I got a little tongue tied there. My name is Paola, and I have a channel called Paola Guerrero. Now it's Paola Guerrero, but like the official URL, it's Paola Mancera. It's fine. And I do a lot of content on romance books and YA, more specifically like YA contemporary stories. And I also do a little Theater Thursday things, and I talk about my love for theater and my dislike for some theater things that are happening. Yeah.
That is totally fair. All right. So, first of all, before I totally didn't tell y'all I was going to ask you this, but what is it that drew you to this book in the first place? What made you want to talk about it and read it?
Would you like to go first, Paola?
Oh, sure. For me, it was just the name. Mexican Gothic was something that I was immediately drawn to because I thought it was like very simple, very straightforward, kind of like High School Musical. Like this is what the name is, and this is what you'll get out of it. I like that, and I also like that Silvia Moreno Garcia had written it because I had never read anything by her, and I know a lot of people love her. And also, like, the cover does not hurt at all. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, basically what you said, Paola. First of all, I grabbed the book so I could show off the cover. It's one of my favorite book covers ever. So that's what grabbed me at first. But also, I love Gothic literature. I did a huge research paper on it in college. And
Ooh.
a lot of the time, they're very much set in Europe, mostly England and Italy for some reason. And it was so nice to see something that was set in Mexico. And I think it offered like a lot of great opportunities to sort of weave Mexican culture in with this sort of Gothic genre.
Mm-hmm. What
Absolutely.
drew you in, Kate?
Oh, well, so I have just really started craving Gothic literature recently. I've liked some in the past, but then I decided to rewatch Hannibal TV show, and then I was like watching it. I was like, this is very like it has a lot of elements of just like Gothic literature, but obviously it's on screen. I do have the Hannibal books. I like literally just bought them the other day. They were used, so it's fine. But so after watching that, I really wanted to read some Gothic literature, and then seeing that there was more modern Gothic literature, I was really excited about that. And kind of like what you said about it being not set in Europe, I get really tired of like every fantasy is set in Europe. Like even like there's this middle grade series I love that is set like half an hour from my home, and it was just so exciting because I was like, hey, this isn't in Europe, it's close. And just so any sort of like book that has any like fantastical elements to it, even though this is horror, anything that has like that kind of magic kind of or whatever you want to call it going on, I'm just excited that it's like in a different place, honestly, than the usual.
Yeah.
But yeah. And also the simplicity of the title again was same thing there. I like that. It's just this is what it is. Usually, if it's got something simple like that, then the book can speak for itself, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
So it looks like we have a handful of folks in here. They're very quiet, so we'll see if they decide to say anything in here today. So also, if anyone that's watching, if you have any questions like that you'd like us to discuss or anything like that, feel free, and we'll get to them when we're able. So let me get to our questions.
We lost Paola.
What? Oh
no! Oh no!
No! She was just there. Oh wait, there we go.
Is she back? Okay, great. Oh, okay. Yes, she's back.
Okay. Can you hear us? I can hear you. I can see your lips moving, but I can't hear you.
Yeah, she's muted.
Oh.
I was muted. But yes,
there
I can
hear. We're going to deal with some technical stuff today, and that is fine because mine has been glitchy this week as well. But that's okay. We're going with the flow. So one of my questions was just like, did you have any reservations going into this book? Like any things that you were kind of concerned about or worried about?
I think for me, at least, I had never read Silvia Moreno Garcia, so there's always this is a new to me author. Is this going to work? I was also really nervous about being terrified, but I think I timed it where I would read it when it was light outside. And so I think that worked out well enough.
I love that. For me, I don't know. I think mostly I was very excited about it. But then when people started saying the mushroom thing, I started to get worried. Because I'm a very visual person.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been immediately made me want to throw up kind of thing. Just because of how people were wording it.
Mm-hmm.
And also getting scared because I'm also a little bit of a scaredy cat. So I also made it a point to read it during the morning.
That was my plan. But then this is the first book that in so long that I was I got hooked on because I've been in such a slump all year. I think a lot of people have kind of experienced that because everything's garbage in the world at the moment. But it was the first thing that kind of hooked me for a while. So I wanted to only read it during the daytime, but that didn't always work. So that was an issue. And then all the people talking about the mushrooms had me guessing the entire time what's significant about the mushrooms. And also I have mushrooms everywhere. I have on the top of my bookshelf over here. I have mushroom little mini prints on the walls. I have just I have mushrooms on so many things just because I think they're cute. And so they're everywhere. So yeah, no, I was concerned about that. But also after I don't read scary stuff at all, but usually if I like Gothic literature because it has that kind of lyrical, almost not quite lyrical, but it's got a pretty way of saying things, and so it doesn't usually freak me out quite as much. Yeah, so there's that. But then after starting the book, I had reservations because anytime a book starts where they're like, "Hey, your cousin's kind of losing it a little bit. We might have to put her in a institution," I always get a little hesitant because I work in a state psychiatric hospital, so it's something that I'm surrounded by all the time, and so I'm always like, how are they going to handle this? Is it going to be done well? Is it going to be done respectfully? And then all that. But it was, in my opinion, it wasn't done in a weird way or anything. Look how many people they are said hi. Hello everyone. So nice to see everybody. So nice. All right, cool. So we're gonna get to, let's see, what's the next question here? So my notes. What were your feelings on the time period of this? Any thoughts?
I can go. I loved it. I don't know, like, I've been getting really into vintage and 1950s clothing, so this was perfect for me. But also, there's something nice about a historical Gothic setting, especially because, I kept thinking during scenes, like, well, if it's dark, take out your phone, or why don't you just call for help or text someone? And I think setting it in the past, away from all of that technology and a lot of these easy solutions, helps with the plot and helps to complicate a lot of matters.
I totally agree with that, because I feel like you'd have to have excuses, like in books that take place kind of now, you have to be like, oh, well, their phone dies, so they don't have, or there's no cell service in this mysterious area, and all that kind of stuff. So it's nice to not even to like have those limitations on it, I think.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting too. Specifically the part about the post service, because they had to to make sure that you're okay or something, you send a letter. And that was very interesting to read. And I agree with what you said, Taylor, about how it adds to the plot and it adds to the suspense of it all.
Yeah.
It's also easier for certain like characters to be controlled more,
Mm-hmm.
like just by other people. There's not as many ways for people to kind of get out certain situations, which makes it creepier and adds tension to everything that's going on. Because
Exactly.
I mean, like if it was now, I'd be like tweeting about like these people are creepy. Hashtag WTF, like that's ridiculous. It's not like someone trying to be young at the but like I feel like I'd be tweeting about it like this is problematic. But we don't really have that option in this. So I think the time period, I really do like it. I usually don't like stories set in the 50s, but I really did enjoy it.
I also think it helps with some of the overall themes of the books. Like, obviously, racism and sexism still very much exist nowadays, but I think it was a lot more restrictive to, like, Catalina's situation. She probably couldn't just up and leave him, or, she had to kind of live in a time period where she was expected to be a housewife. She can't be in that situation and have a 9 to 5. And with racism, like in the 1950s, it was much more not appropriate, but you were much more likely to find like a eugenics book in someone's home in the 50s than, I mean, now you probably could, but like people would side eye you.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I think I feel like a lot of that's going to be more pronounced. Oh, there's let's see. Let me see if I can do this correctly here. Bam. Yay. Okay. Serena says, Rena is my mother-in-law's name. And with the way, unless it's pronounced Renee, but her name's Rena. I don't know. And with the way women's rights weren't really that far, so the cousins are really under the family's control. I think this is a really good point. Oh, let me minimize it. I also think it's interesting because, like, I'm really close with my cousins, but I noticed a lot of people aren't that close with their cousins. So it was nice to see that close relationship there. I was raised an only child, so I didn't have like siblings that they were my first friends or my cousins. So I thought it was nice to see that kind of connection and stuff.
I love that they were not only talking about like, I mean, the author never skimmed over how close they were. I loved the little like flashbacks part of it, that where they talk about what they used to do, what they used how they used to spend their time together. That was very fun, and that really made you feel for Noemi more specifically, because she was the one witnessing her cousin act very strangely when she was never that way at all.
Yeah. And I think it was definitely valuable to see like that comparison to this is how she was, and this is why she knows this isn't like how she is, So I think that was very interesting that they did that. Which just brings me to, like what were your feelings on Noemi to begin with? Like what were your feelings on her throughout the book? Anybody?
Would you like to go, Paula?
I personally really loved her. In the beginning, I really liked how, well, she stays that way throughout the entire book, but I really like how from the get-go she was like flirty and confident, and she knew her thing. She wasn't letting anyone mess with her. So that was really fun.
Yeah, I also liked her. I think it took me a while to sort of warm up to her. I liked the idea of her at first, like a socialite being put into this situation. I think it just took me a while to sort of get a grasp on her character. And once I did, I loved her and I loved following her throughout this. And I liked that she is also very different from the classic Gothic heroines.
Oh.
Yeah, while still sort of fulfilling the role of the Gothic heroine in terms of like the aesthetics and how she sort of falls into this mystery and so on. So I did really enjoy her by the end of it.
Yeah, I definitely felt the same way. I feel like so many books that I read with like women in the limelight in the main roles, that they're often either timid or they're not, but they have a lot of nervousness about them. And the fact that just right off the bat she was very like everything she did was practiced. I remember marking everywhere in the book where it was like her making a choice to do something even so like super subtle, like put her hand a certain way or face somebody a certain way, and like just those tiny little things, noticing them. I found that really interesting because just in what I do in work, I pay attention to these little details of people a lot, and so I thought that was cool that she was just so like fully aware of herself that she knew what she needed to do to communicate what she needed to communicate. Laurelyn said, I was actually worried. Did it come up? I was actually worried I wasn't going to like her when we first met her, to be honest. I struggle with socialite type characters. I totally agree with that. I usually am not, I'll pull that up. I'm usually not a huge fan of socialites. Like in general, I like the mysterious, quiet sides. But I really, really liked the fact that she was so just forward with who she is.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, and especially like Mexican socialites. I mean, well, I don't think there's like a point of comparison because of like the how much time has happened. But like, I feel like there's a lot of, racism, a lot of internalized misogyny going on for Mexican socialites. Maybe this is for every socialite out there, but I see it a lot in like magazines here, and it's just like influencers with more money, in my opinion. But she was just so different from what I was even expecting her to be. Um, yeah, I don't know why I expected her to be just like very empty, like she wouldn't have that much going on for her, and this would be like the thing that made her a strong woman. But I think she always was a strong woman, and that was fun, which is what you were saying, Taylor, about how she's not like the typical Gothic heroine, and that was very fun to read.
Yeah,
I totally
love that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I love how a lot of times in stories we're like, oh, they went through this terrible thing, and that's what makes them strong. But in reality, they were strong to have gotten through it in the first place. So it kind of goes on with what you said, Paul.
Yeah, and I also like that there were, I think, almost no moments in the book where Noemi made a decision, and I was immediately like, that's a bad decision. You could have been smarter about that. She was very smart the way she went about things and the way like she kept adapting as information was given to her, which I really liked.
Yeah, I was gonna say that there were no like don't go in that door kind of moments.
Yeah.
There was never a moment. I feel like she did, for the most part, did what I would have done, except for I would have left immediately. But for the most part, she did. If I had stayed, everything else I feel like was, pretty smart. So I liked that. But no, where was this? I just saw a great one. Great comment. Okay. Her cousin was a great foil to her boldness.
Yeah. I agree with that. And Rena down a little bit further down the comments said that Catalina had a lot more in common with the classical Gothic heroine, which I also agree with.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. It was almost like the first story didn't get told, and then she was rescuing almost from the other story that wasn't there. If that makes sense, I don't know. But no, I really liked how different they were. Like she said that Catalina was very kind of head in the clouds, loved the stories and all this stuff, and so I think it was kind of cool to see someone so grounded as well. But, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that leads us talking a little bit about Catalina. I think it was interesting too that she had lived with Noemi and her dad. I don't remember. I didn't get a full grasp on their family situation outside of that. Occasionally she would mention a brother, but when she mentioned her brother, I was like, I was totally assuming you didn't have a brother until this point. But I think it was interesting how she kind of fit into that.
Yeah.
That family.
Yeah. And she gives her a good reason to stay through all the nonsense that is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very well balanced book. Because you don't just get the scares and the mystery and then the flashback. It was all like very well put together, and I really, really appreciated that. It made it very easy to just be in the story.
I absolutely agree. There was like no like info dumping or anything. Like it definitely like was very well executed. I do have this issue where like I like to Google like constantly as I'm reading. If I feel like there's going to be like a mystery element and that there's going to be clues, I'm just like I like to analyze. I was like I I would like stop. You can see like all my I don't know if you can see it. It won't zoom in. There they are.
Yeah, wow.
I did a lot of sticky noting. Yeah, so that was a thing. And like every time they mentioned like the Ouroboros, like the snake, I was like, hey, I'm gonna Google it, and I went into like Jungian psychology and all this random stuff that I was making notes on, and that I didn't really think about. And so I wrote this word down on page like 38 that didn't pop up until like page 200 something, and I was like, haha, I sort of knew that that's what was happening, but not really. But absolutely, I really liked how Catalina was balanced out with them. What about, let's see, how'd y'all feel about their dad? Well, I guess Noemi's dad, so Catalina's uncle. How'd y'all feel about him? I know he was only in there for like a smidge, but any thoughts?
Not much other than that he was sort of the catalyst and sort of this like unseen presence. Like if she can get word out to him, things are fine. So he was kind of involved in the final goal, but he wasn't very present on screen.
Yeah.
Or
yeah. No, I get the screen in my head. No, I totally agree with that. I think it's interesting. Sorry, you go ahead, pal.
No, I just said me too, because he was the catalyst, and I also like the conditioning part of it, where he's like, well, if you do it, then I'll let you go to school. I thought that was part of the history of Noemi's personal history with her family and her education.
Yeah. I think it definitely showed really quickly like how he acted towards each of them. It seems like he's a lot softer towards Catalina than Noemi, and which, I mean, with their personalities, you can see that he might have adapted, to the way that personalities are. But then you could also argue that maybe that's why their personalities are the way that they are. It's the whole nature nurture situation, which actually also was a theme in the book. So kind of. So
yeah,
there's that. What about Francis? How'd you feel about Francis?
Do you want to go, Paula?
I didn't trust him at all. Yeah. Oh, I think I froze.
Oh wait, I can still hear you. Your image is you're there. Can you hear us?
Oh no.
You're moving again.
You can?
Yeah. There might be a delay, but we can see you and hear you.
You won't let me.
Let me make sure. Yeah, we can see and hear you. You're
Yeah,
moving
we
and
can
stuff.
see and hear you.
I was like checking on the other screen. Yeah, no, you can be. You're good. No, but I definitely get why you wouldn't have trusted him, especially since he is introduced like a Slender Man or something. Like,
Yeah. It's a very gaunt man.
I just pictured like like Slender Man, but in all white. Like, wow.
Yeah. I grew to like him, but the entire time I was side-eyeing him. I was like, you shouldn't trust anyone in this house. There's something sketchy going on with him. He's too meek.
I loved him from like the get-go. I wanted to hug him. I wanted to give him a hug. I liked him because he kind of seemed to almost try to. I don't know. You know how he can't like tell her what's going on from the get go, but like he seemed to be nice in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the whole time,
like him.
What?
I did grow to like him.
Yeah. The whole time I was just like scared that he was gonna let me down. I do like that he got a little bit more. You could see a little bit more of his anger towards his family throughout the book, like as it went on. You could see more of that. And I like how weird he is. Like this whole mushroom gathering and prints making and all that stuff. I loved him. He was a weirdo.
Yeah.
But he was cute. In my mind, he was adorable. Okay, we had a couple of questions. I'm gonna come back to them, I think, in a minute. But I do agree with this right here. I like how he got more and more like animosity towards them, like throughout it.
Yeah.
Yeah, as he should.
I did get a little mad at him when he didn't like speak up against what was going on, but then I also understand being in an environment where like you don't feel safe to do so. Like,
Yeah,
definitely get that. So I want to be mad at him, but I'm also like, I understand though. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Question him a few times. I like to read. But overall, I was in support of him, and I wish I could have seen visualizations of his art. Yes, it had me like Googling like mushroom prints, so I could like have visuals. Even though like I have like a literal like botanical. That was a weird way of saying that. It's very southern. I have like a botanical like print over here of mushrooms, and so I was just like, should I be disturbed? Maybe, but nice. And we got. I liked him in a protective sort of way. He needs to be protected. I agree.
Yeah.
Poor. He's almost like like he needs to be rescued. The what is? I just had a word in my head and it like immediately just vanished.
Yeah.
He was like what Daphne is in Scooby Doo.
Damsel in distress.
Yes, that's the phrase. I could not find it. He had little brother aura. Yes.
Yeah.
He just seemed like a damsel in distress though in my mind. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, who else? Florence. She was I think she was the next one we met. I think Florence. How'd y'all feel about her?
Ooh. I didn't like her from the start. I don't know if either of you are familiar with Rebecca, but like the movie, I immediately got Mrs. Danvers vibes from her.
I haven't read it yet. It's on my list.
I think the book and movie are a little bit different. But I at least imagined her like the movie version. And yeah, right off the bat, she stressed me out. I didn't like her. I didn't trust her. I was like, this woman here is shady.
Yeah, I immediately wanted to fight her.
Yeah.
I was not a fan. I was trying to like figure out what I was picturing for her. I was picturing.
Yeah, me too. She was so like
You had a thought. You lost.
Oh, you know who? From Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Probably
Oh,
I haven't read
older, but like that one, I kind of feel like she would be able to play her.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think like if I had written Mexican Gothic, I would have loved writing Florence because she's such a mean person and abusive. Like I feel like she would have been a super interesting character to explore.
Mhm.
But yeah, like reading her from Noemi's perspective, it was just like she reminded me a lot of uh like the headmistress of a private school, like a secluded boarding school for like problem children. So she
Mhm.
was
Yeah,
she was a lot.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And also,
yeah.
she reminded me of the mean teacher in Matilda.
Oh yeah.
The one that puts you in the chokey or whatever that thing is called. Is that what it was? Chokey? Is that what they called that thing? I don't know. I didn't
I
like
don't
it.
know. I've never seen Matilda in English, but yeah, I know
I've
what
never
you
seen
I read the
mean.
book and then I eventually got to watch it. I didn't like the movie very much, except for the cake part because it made me like cake. But no, I didn't like her, but there were moments where I almost felt like she had some kind of softness in her. You know, there were certain, like after she polished the silver, like I feel like there was a moment.
Mm,
Trunchbull, yes, that was the name. But there was like a moment when after the silver polishing scene, and I was like, I feel like there's something there, maybe because she is a mom. You
mhm.
know, I feel like there's something there, but who? I don't know. It was buried. It was deep.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like I couldn't trust her. And I know if I were in Noemi's situation, I wouldn't do anything about it, but I kept saying like, drop her. Drop her now. She's going to be a big problem later.
I love it. Just go ahead and take care of her now. You know, get her out. Francis will live, hopefully. Uh, okay, so moving from, I want to do Howard before we do Virgil. Let's do Howard first. How did y'all feel about
Ooh.
Howard Doyle,
Ugh.
the
Yeah.
patriarch or whatever?
Hmm.
I hated him, so there's that.
Yeah.
I was picturing like a Boomy from Avatar, like the Earth King guy. That's what I pictured him looking like, but like a real, yeah.
Oh no, not Boomy.
I like Boomy, the character, but like if a person looked like that, I feel like it'd be Howard. I don't
I'm
know.
trying to think of some like visualization of him, and I can't come up with any other than just gross.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh wait, this is great. I can't. This is for Florence. I'm on
Exactly.
board.
You could
I'm
make
here
it sound
for
like
it.
an accident.
Yes. But yeah, no. So Howard, he's gross. I don't
Yeah.
like him.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, he was super creepy. He
Hmm.
kind of reminded me of the man who plays, oh my God, the butler in Haunted Mansion, like the Disney movie with Eddie Murphy.
Oh, with like the hair, like
Yeah,
I gotta look.
yeah,
yeah, that one.
I'm having to
yeah,
Google it. I want
Super mysterious, creepy.
to look. Ooh.
Ugh.
yeah.
Yeah, not a fan. Not a
That's
fan of that.
that's like a good comparison. I think I imagined him two ways as being like really frail and sickly, and then also like I guess sort of some sort of monster.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
Haunted Mansion guy is a good comparison.
Or like Riff Raff from from
Yeah.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I'm gonna look that up. I've never seen Rocky Horror.
He's like he's a lot. Riff Raff is a lot. He's kind of icky.
Oh, that
Oh,
guy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I don't. So the thing about Howard is, I kept wanting to be like, oh, maybe he's just having witty banter time, and then I'd be like, oh, that's that was not good. That was a bad thing to say, sir. But sometimes the way he said things, it was almost like so sneaky. Like this, I don't know. It was like sneakily racist sometimes.
Yeah.
And other times it was just straight up, just lay it all out there.
Yeah. And like really sexist. And I knew something was up the minute he described his wives, and like that the minute he said that they were sisters, I was like, okay, one, no, something's not right about this. And two, it's a little lazy, my dude.
Yeah, like
go outside the family.
There's so many other people out there that don't look like you.
It's the easy option.
Gosh, that was, and you know that they were too young and they were probably had no choice and all this, you know. I hated him from the get-go because I was just like, this guy has control issues. He thinks he's a god. He, you know, is just, he probably smells bad. In my mind, he just smells like, I don't know, like a moldy armpit.
Ew.
That's my imagination. I can't see the image in my mind, the scent in my mind about him.
Yeah.
That's what he smells like in my brain. That's normal. But he's gross. No, he's just straight up gross. And the fact that everything revolved around him to that extent was immediately just like, don't like that. Don't like it.
Yeah.
What other characters we got? Virgil. Let's talk about Virgil.
Ugh.
Oh boy. I was not expecting him at all, because there were also moments of us being, or well, I don't know about you, but like the reader being misled when he's like, I think it was like the first time that Noemi went to Catalina's bedroom and she was like, something's wrong, blah blah blah, and then he was like, you're right, and I care about my wife and blah blah blah. That I was like, oh, okay, so he cares, he just doesn't know how to do it because of Howard. But then it was just like, no, he's just bad.
Yeah, straight up bad. Oh, I just. Ugh.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say he was so slimy, and he does, I think, as a character, he functions really well as like the Gothic villain, like the charming, sort of handsome villain that sort of pulls you in. And there were a couple of scenes, not a couple, one in particular that reminds me so much of this scene from The Monk, which I don't know if any of you are familiar with.
No.
I don't know if I recommend it outright, but it is one of the most wild books I've ever read. But it's like one of the original Gothic novels from like the 1700s. And his bathtub scene with Noemi, where he's being really creepy, very much mirrors a scene from The Monk. That's very similar.
Oh.
I just... I felt so uncomfortable with him, because then at times I was like, he's being sexy, but I don't like it. I hate everything happening right in this moment.
Yeah.
And I like that she also rejected it. Like, she still, like, even though she was like, wow, I kind of feel a little turned on by this guy, she's also like, but no, he's disgusting. This is very wrong, and I don't like this. You know?
Yeah.
And even though she could recognize that aesthetically he was, you know, hot stuff, but
handsome. Yeah.
Absolutely. And no, he just like, I don't know if y'all have seen The Fall. It's like it's UK, I think, murder mystery kind of thing. It's got Gillian Anderson in it with the guy who's in 50 Shades of Grey. What is that? His name?
Not Henry Cavill. Jamie Dornan?
Jamie Dornan, yes. I first saw him at like in Once Upon a Time or something. I don't know, but that show is Jamie Dornan.
Oh, Jamie
Dornan. Yeah, and he and like he's really hot, but he's also like evil, and like that's what I was like. That kind of vibe is what I was imagining. I don't know. I don't like him. Oh, I finally remember what Howard. Wait, reminds me of the dead bathroom for The Shining. Ooh. Maybe. I just slime man. I don't know. Yeah, no, I didn't like Virgil from like when they first mentioned him. They're like, he seemed pleasant enough, and I was like, no, he's not.
I knew right off the bat. Like the minute he showed up, I was like, "Oh, villain!"
Villain vibes. I immediately was just like, nah, this is all bullshit.
I like the way I imagined him was very like tall and slender and very immaculately dressed, and black hair so greasy you could like slide right off it. I was like, "Oh, villain!"
Like all like coiffed back and whatnot.
Yeah.
He seems like one of those guys that wears the little cufflinks. I don't know. Cufflinks aren't evil, but in my mind they're evil. If you wear cufflinks, I'm watching you. That's how I feel. But there are also some really awesome like side characters. I didn't like how the servants. What were they?
Yeah.
I don't know what their jobs like were. They were basically servants though, with the way that they were controlled and stuff. Like that was so. At first, I was like, "Why are they ignoring her? She's being so nice."
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Wow, this is garbage."
Yeah. It added another layer of creepy to it because I also feel like in a lot of Gothic novels, like the servants are either they're not very present or they're very mysterious as well. Mm-hmm. And like to give like a reason why they're mysterious, the fact that they are basically nothing and the fact that they're essentially slaves, it's just so creepy, and it just adds another layer of like nothing in this house is right.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking of like the so there's a book and it's basically a retelling of the Island of Dr. Moreau, and it has some characters that are basically like very similar to the people in this one. They're just kind of like there, and they're very complacent, and they're just like agreeable, like overly agreeable, and they just kind of do whatever they're told, and it's creepy. It's kind of creepy. But,
very weird.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about the doctors? There's two. So Dr. Cummins. I like how they both start with a C too. They both had C.
Yeah.
I almost feel like that was purposeful, because usually they try to be careful about like when they. I feel like people usually when it comes to like naming, that's very intentional. But I hated Dr. Cummins immediately. Mm-hmm. I was like, he's not doing anything.
Yeah.
And also his daughter was like almost in this family, or was in this family. I don't remember how that. She died in childbirth. Was that what it was?
I think so.
Yeah. The family line is a little confusing for me, and sometimes I have a hard time because it's one big circle.
It is.
It's like a weird ivy. Like I don't picture like a family tree. I picture like a weird intertwining spider web.
Yeah.
But
it like reminded me of that scene in Harry Potter. I know like Harry Potter is like unmentionable now, but
it's okay.
it really reminded me of when they were doing like at the Sirius Black house with the family thing, and he was like, wait, you're related to Bellatrix? Like, ew. And they were like, oh yeah, because there aren't that many like pure bloods left. And I was like, that's kind of gross.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's like a good connection there.
Nope, don't want to think about that. I was going to go down the road of, I wonder if there was that kind of stuff involved over there. Wouldn't be surprised.
They did confirm that it was.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. And then this, let's see. He was just a yes man. Dr. Cummins? Yeah. I just don't get that, like, see how it gets to that point. I don't know, with him. Like, at what point, why did you agree to this? And then, like, if he's connected to the whole thing, but he's able to leave, then couldn't he, like, keep working to get a little bit farther, and then leave?
Yeah.
Or at some point, does he fall into the, like, almost worshiping the guy?
I think that might have been it. Like, he was so, like, enraptured, I guess, with Howard, and the idea of him as a god, maybe that's why he didn't leave. I still don't entirely get it, but my fight or flight instincts are always turned on, so.
As soon as I open the book, oh, there they are. I totally feel that.
Yeah. You open the door to
Yeah,
the
he
mansion
was.
and you're like,
And bye. Come on, Francis, let's go.
Sorry, Paula, I cut you off.
No, it's okay. No, I was just saying that he was so strange. He really reminded me of like the kind of doctor that would just be like, "You're fine," like he didn't really check up on it on you or anything. It's like, "You're okay, you're okay." Yeah, I didn't like him at all. He was very patronizing. No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, he was. Which is not surprising when you think of him, just handing his daughter to these folks.
Yeah.
Ugh, I don't like it. What about the other doctor, Dr. Camarillo?
Uh-huh.
How do y'all
Camarillo.
feel about him?
Uh-huh.
Camarillo. How do y'all feel about him?
I
He's
like
Go ahead.
him, but I feel like he could have been braver. Like I feel like all the men in this book were not brave at all. So it was like, okay, but I'll take a look at her. But I don't really want to, and I don't think they will welcome me. Like, excuse me, isn't your professional about like checking up on people? And yeah, but I did like that he was, um, like he knew something weird was there, and that he eventually like got around to visiting Catalina and being like, yeah, it's good that you asked for the second opinion because she does not have uh tuberculosis. So I like that.
Yeah. I'll also say, like, the standards for doctors in this book are, like, really, really low, so it was very easy for Camarillo to, like, clear that.
Yeah.
It's like the do no harm. It's just like, okay, just don't do a lot of harm.
Yeah.
And if you do, just make sure you keep it a secret with all the creepy family,
Yeah. Like, I liked him well enough, but I agree with you, Paula. Like, he could have been a little braver. He could have done a little bit more.
Okay, I'm guessing this one was about Dr. Cummins?
Uh-huh.
Yes, I agree with that one. Absolutely. What about, okay, this is another kind of side character, but Marta Duval, the storytelling lady,
Ooh.
giving the cigarettes to Jesus. or the no, who was it? Or was
It was like
A saint. Uh-huh.
which saint was it?
I forgot.
I had it written down at one point. I had the saint at the end of the book but I can't remember if it was the same saint as Marta had going on. It was basically the one at the end of the book was Saint Jude, basically, but
Oh, okay.
which is the saint of lost causes and hospitals and
Ooh.
yeah, the one at the end that she was lighting the candle for Judas. I can't remember what. It's not that Judas. It's the different Judas. But it's not that one. But no, I looked it up and it was just like he was Saint Jude. Is the saint of lost causes, desperate situations, and hospitals. Because I know there's a St. Jude Children's Research Center here, so I, guessing it's the same St. Jude. But I can't remember what saint that Marta was praying to, had the candle for.
Yeah.
cigarettes. Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. She was like, it was expensive taste.
I do like her though, and I like that I guess, sort of medicine-related person or medical-related person was the one who was an official doctor. She was a woman, and she was involved in more, I guess, like spiritual and like, I guess, non-traditional medicine practices. And I like that she was the one who like had most of the answers and was the most helpful of the three.
I agree with that. I think it was nice to have those two points of view, and the fact that they were agreeable with each other too, and not like, oh, that old doctor, he doesn't know anything. Like it wasn't like humorously butting heads. Like they were pretty agreeable with each other. Oh, A Beautiful Bookworm said, I also thought she was going to end up with the town doctor. So like Noemi and Dr. Camarillo. Yeah, that would have been interesting. At first I did think maybe she was like flirting with him a little bit, but she also was just a flirt. Like that's kind of part of her personality.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's understandable. Okay, and then there were like a ton of other.
Oh, we lost Paula.
Last,
Oh no.
let me see if I can. When she pops up, I'll re-add her. Last time I didn't take very long. There we go. Are you here?
Yes. Hi.
Yay!
Sorry, I'm happening with my internet today. I swear this never happens. I don't
It's
know what's
okay.
going on.
You came back really quick. It's
It
okay.
happens to everyone.
Mine. I'm surprised mine hasn't done it yet. We'll see though. Better not. One time, somebody who was on the live stream had to end it for me because mine had already like slowed them. She was like, "So anyway, bye." It was really funny. But there were a lot of other like side characters that were just like that weren't there, but they were from the history, and they were a lot.
Yeah.
Like there were a lot of them, but also like they were like a lot.
Yeah.
Especially Ruth, I know, because she's the
Oh,
the big one there, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah. Ruth,
Yeah.
and then Agnes, and what was the other sister's name? Started with an A.
Alice.
Alice. Yeah.
Alice. Okay.
Which
I
I
don't know
also
why I
thought
was
was interesting. Because the Alice and like the mushrooms and stuff, like in Alice in Wonderland, mushrooms were such a big thing, and I was like, I wonder if that was on purpose. I don't know if
Good
it
connection.
was. I
That's
was
a
like,
great
I want to find
connection.
all of them, all the symbols. But no, that's what I was thinking of the whole time, and I was like, can I call this a retelling now? I have two elements that are similar. But no, I liked how many characters there were and how distinct they were from each other, even though like a large portion of them were like connected, and you could see those
Yeah.
certain things. I just pictured them all having like shadows under their eyes and looking really sleep deprived and just
Yeah.
being, I don't know, pale.
Yeah. Pale and kind of like sickly looking because of all the intermarrying.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I picture them. It's just like bones and just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All they eat is cold soup with mushrooms. It's like all I picture in my brain.
Yeah.
Just gross food. Yeah, but there are a lot of very interesting characters and very interesting relationships between the characters. And then Abby had a question back here. Let me find it because it was a really good question. And I wanted to come back to it. Let me see if I can. I think I scrolled too far. I did. Well, maybe I didn't. Maybe I lost it.
Feel free to come back to this question, but how long did it take y'all to put all the pieces together on what was actually happening in the town / hat? No.
Oh,
That one. Yeah.
yeah.
A lot. I'm not the smartest person when it comes to thrillers and stuff. Like I remember reading the Lion Game series by Sarah Shepard, and I was like, oh my god, who is it? Who's the killer? And when I got to the end, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm glad that my prediction from book 5 was right. But everyone, when I put it on Goodreads, everyone was like, oh my god, finally we confirmed that we were right. We knew from book 1. And I was like, oh, I was not aware. Okay. So yeah, it took me a while and a half to get to guess what was happening. Well, not to guess. Silvia Moreno told me, but that was part of the fun bits of reading the book that I was not aware of anything.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I obviously knew that something was going to happen because it's a Gothic novel, and from the second Naomi walks through the door, everything is just creepy and not right. Like, okay, there's something not right. And, like, I would get bits and pieces, and I'm like, huh, okay. Or, like, the first time when Ruth shows up, I'm like, wonder what that's about. And, like, when it started to come together, like, I still couldn't guess exactly what was happening. Which I also liked because it's not like I could like read 10 pages into it and go, yes, I know, like, there were a lot of twists and a lot of layers to the overall, like, mystery of it.
I agree. So here's the thing. Like, I am so bad. I do this with movies and with shows. Like, as soon as the show comes on, I'm like, I know what's gonna happen, and then I just like, I have like 50 different scenarios, and maybe like one of them's right. But like, as I was reading this, like, the first time that dang snake pops up, the Ouroboros pops up, I like literally put a sticky note that said something. Wait, where'd it go? I'm gonna find this thing. Here it is. I wrote that it means I eat, and I put eternal cyclic renewal, life, death, rebirth, transmigration of souls. And I was like, so, okay, so what's happening is something's happening, someone's eating something, maybe absorbing something, and they're living forever. And that's like how my brain was like, okay, it's going to be something along these lines at some point in here. But like, I didn't know the exact way that it was going to work. But that was kind of like, you know, I was like, maybe they absorbed the energy of the people that were working, or, you know, but
Yeah.
I figured that there was some kind of weird consumption and like living forever kind of situation going on. I just didn't quite know, like, because it was very complex. Like, it gave you so many clues throughout it, but then like it'll tell you straight up like what those clues mean, like later on down the line. You know, like I wrote transmigration there on page 38 or something, and then like whatever page 200 something, it actually like said, oh, it's a transmigration of souls, and I was like, ah, I called that. Actually, I researched and found out what it was. I did think I thought it was cool how she'll answer your questions, but like by the end of it, she didn't give you all the clues, so there were still some things that you wouldn't have completely known, you know. So I thought that was nice.
I honestly, like, I am so impressed with your like deduction, Kate, because like, I know what an Ouroboros is, and I know what it stands for. But the minute it, like, the first time it showed up, I was like, "Yo, sex symbol, love it." That won't show up later, and then it showed up like 10 times, and that's when I was like, "Okay." After like the third time, this means something, and I should pay attention. But the first time, I was like, "Whoa, that's so sick, love it."
I totally agree. I think it's. I thought it was funny because like I just want to say the snake. I want to say the snake because every time I say Ouroboros, I feel like I'm saying it wrong. So the snake. It's so many different like types of mythology. Like I was just talking about the video, like the last video I posted. I was holding it's from Scandinavian folklore, and I had it on the cover, and like as soon as I looked at it, I was like, we're gonna put you back. I don't want to think anymore. But like it's in so many different like I don't know histories and mythologies and stuff that I was like, I'm curious. I didn't realize how much it was involved with like Jungian psychology, which like is a lot. it's a whole thing. But I did think it was funny that the people I'd found this out recently that the people that made the Myers-Briggs type indicator test, the like
MBTI.
I can say the whole line, but when I try to just do the letters, I mess it up. The ladies that made them, it was a mom and a daughter. The mom wrote erotic fan fiction about Carl Jung.
Whoa.
Basically. And I'm like,
interesting.
Layers.
And so I was thinking about that a lot.
That I did not expect that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about for a lot of it. Also, they were super problematic. Like, I don't know about Jung, but I know they were. But also it's supposed to be like a phallic symbol also, which, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
I almost said fallacies, and I was like, that's a whole other thing. That's a different thing. All right, so let's see. Let me see what comments we got. I went in assuming haunting for sure, or being controlling as heck, not mushrooms playing a whole skeleton key body swapping thing. Yes, that is the best way to describe it. I feel like I just pictured like this weird like web throughout the house, and like they're all somehow attached to everybody's brains.
Yeah.
And yes, I was on this boat right here. Yeah, I was definitely like pieces, but not quite. let's see. What were your feelings on the ending of the book?
I liked the ending a lot. I was very nervous, and I thought it was just going to not end well for them. So my original prediction for the ending, like once everything was revealed, was that Noemi would willingly join the family, and it would be like a dark ending. So I was very happy when that didn't happen. So I liked it. I thought it was a good conclusion, but it still also kind of ended on a bit of like a creepy note in terms of Francis sort of contemplating what does his involvement with his family mean for his future, and what does it mean for his ability to adapt to the real world. And I did sort of like that little bit of musing right before the end.
Yeah. I also thought, like, I had two very like pessimistic endings in mind, and one of them was what you said, Taylor, about Noemi willingly joining them, and the other one was um, only Noemi and Catalina surviving. And then I was like, maybe it's only Noemi. But then I was not expecting Francis to survive. I was like, he's gonna die. He's gonna die. And then he didn't, so that was cool.
Yeah, I was expecting him to be like a martyr, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
Some sort of self-sacrifice thing, and he tried. He tried, but she was like, no.
Which I also liked.
Yes, absolutely. I was just like, I'm just glad. I'm glad she's that stubborn. But no, I agree. I liked it. There was like a little bit of something at the end. I always like where you close the book and you're like, but is it over? Like, is there something that happen? Yeah, I liked that. But speaking of the ending, do y'all think that there would be opportunity for a sequel? And if there was, what would it be like? And or like, would you read it, or would you even be interested in that?
I think
50 questions. I'm sorry.
No, I personally think I'm good with how the book ended. I don't think there's any more reason to continue with the story. I think it was very clean the way it ended, while still also being like open-ended and allowing for speculation. I think a sequel would just drag it out, maybe. And I don't know. I just think the book was perfect as a standalone, and it felt complete by the end.
Yeah, me too. Because I don't know what the sequel could be about. Maybe like a prequel, even though we already know everything potentially. But I like the Ruth and the Benito thing. Thought that was very interesting, because it spoke to how even within the family they found people who rejected those like values and that creepy thing Howard had for himself.
Yeah. A prequel would be interesting, or like a little short story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like a lot of like Gothic novels, I wouldn't want sequel, because I do like the way that it like closes itself, and I've gotten lately where I'm just like not a fan of like sequels and trilogies, and in series, like I like the one thing, so I'm not making this large commitment, you know. So,
yeah, same.
But I do think, you know, the fact that it's going to be, wait, is it going to be a show or a movie?
I think a miniseries.
Miniseries, okay. Because I was thinking, like, you know, as a miniseries, they could definitely like take it farther if they wanted to, but I don't feel like they need to. I don't know.
Yeah, I will say I'm very excited for the miniseries, because a lot of the visuals in this book were fantastic, and a lot of it really evoked the sort of Gothic feel. I don't know if you have a question for that, Kate.
I actually didn't, but I was going to add one, because I just started thinking about it. I was like, what do we feel about the show here, the miniseries?
But like, it was very easy for me to imagine this like as a show, like her going down the hallways with like the lamps and so on. And near the end, when you have Catalina in the white nightgown and Noemi in the white like bride's gown, like that is so evocative of Gothic novels, where it's always a woman in a white gown with the lamp running through the halls.
Yes.
Wonderful. And it was so easy to visualize, and I just would love to see that on the screen.
Mm-hmm. And I don't remember what scene it was. I could see it. Like, was it Ruth? Or was it one of the sisters where, like, they were there and then they, like, kind of, like, floated quickly kind of towards her or something?
Mm-hmm.
I immediately could see that, like, on screen, and I was like, I don't want to see that on screen. I would rather read it. I was a little scared about it. But the dreams were so interesting, and there were so many references to other, like, Gothic stories. Like, so many, mostly the yellow wallpaper, but so many other ones too. And I know it was supposed to be Rebecca also, like a lot of inspiration. But
yeah, the yellow wallpaper, Rebecca, the monk. I think the Mysteries of Udolpho, but I haven't finished that one.
Yeah.
Ooh. So many. I'm not that cultured, so wow.
I Udolpho, the monk, I technically wouldn't recommend, but if you ever want something that's like the funniest, wildest ride of your life, I recommend the monk.
Okay.
I'll have to pick up that one because now I'm curious. I was trying to find. I had marked. I'd marked like everywhere that like I saw reference to like another book or another story. But one of the issues is that like after I would mark it, I would forget what the colors meant of my stickies because They also referenced the pomegranate a couple of times, like the Hades.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. So I did because she ate it and because she consumed it. That's what kind of.
Oh yeah.
I'm bad at the mythology, but I know that was significant. And so I thought
they mentioned.
Yeah,
I remember. That's why I thought she was going to go into the family because of the enchanted pomegranate thing, and I was like, oh, that would be cool. Like, I don't know if it would be cool, but would be an interesting way to end it. Yeah.
And she also like referenced like the actual stories. Like she would say like the titles. Like, we read this book, and and pictured herself as this character or whatever.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah,
I also had this song stuck in my head that had that Latin phrase, that adverb factum est. We had sung something that was just that repeating for like 3 minutes, and so that was stuck in my head for most of the book. So thanks, Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Hated that. I interrupted you. What were you going to say, Paula?
No, that I was very disturbed because I was not expecting the assault, like Virgil being a rapist, pretty much, and the incest, even though I was kind of expecting it, not only because of the time it was taking place, but also because there's a lot of like comments and sometimes like very tasteless jokes about incest in some parts of Mexico. So I was like, I don't know why I did not see that coming, but it was just like, oh, it was just thinking about that makes me really grossed out. But I appreciate how Noemi pointed it out because she said something about the Habsburgs. Is that what it was?
Yeah, the Habsburgs.
The Habsburgs. And I don't know much about them, but I remember I was watching a documentary about like incestuous relationships in the English crown.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, I know that. See, I'm cultured.
I literally didn't catch that at all, like in the book, but I remember seeing a video about it yesterday on YouTube with what's her name, Jessie something. She's got red hair. And she's deaf, and she does a lot of videos on disability and stuff. And she did a video on Habsburg dynasty family. I don't, whatever they are.
I want to watch that later.
It's really interesting. I also have a couple of the comments over here, but I'll come back to them.
I will say something that I find really interesting too about having the English-based people in Mexico be the very incestuous family is that it's also a sort of inversion on. I'm going to keep bringing this up. The like original Gothic novels, which the point was English people writing about countries that practice Catholicism and making them to be these sort of like, you know, unholy people that practice like premarital sex and incest and so on. And so it's a sort of inversion where you have someone from a predominantly Catholic country coming into this English household and witnessing all of this, which I thought was also interesting. And I don't know if that was intentional, but it was something that was interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of saw that as well.
I have another thing. Like, I wish there was more Spanish in the book because sometimes she would be like, so she switched to English and now she switches to Spanish. And I'm like, what? What is happening? Because I was like, my mind cannot do that. So it's like, why don't you just have them speaking in Spanish to each other or, you know, or just have them speak in English and I'll assume they were initially speaking in Spanish or whatever. But like that shift where Francis was like, we don't speak Spanish at all. And I'm like, okay, I was not aware that you were speaking Spanish from the start. So that was very weird to read, but it was just like a little thing that I had.
No, I agree. I when they said that at first, I was like, oh, duh. Of course, they probably weren't speaking English to begin with, and then like, you know, because you fall a lot of times with reading certain things, and so I do wish that there was more, like, even when they were speaking English, I wish there was more like Spanish in there. And I know she had mentioned something on Twitter recently about how people don't like, you know, having words in there that they don't know and all this stuff. Oh goodness. You know, we have like internet and things that we can read to find out. Wow. You know, so I do wish there was more of that. That would be nice.
Yeah, especially because it got confusing towards the end because they were like Francis and Noemi were speaking in Spanish to each other, like they're doing the little whispers. And I'm like, but everyone can understand you because it was written in English.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, right, you're speaking in Spanish. Sorry. Like my head was confused.
That's
I think what could have been interesting is like, I guess, because I think where it's really confusing is that there's no sort of distinction from where they're switching. So like maybe there could be different fonts used for like a different language or something to indicate it. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know people are trying to fight against like having words in the author's native language in italics. You know, and which I totally get, but I do think it would be nice if like there was like a font for at least for dialogue. You know that.
For full phrases. Yeah.
And like each language could have its own little, and we could have a little key at the beginning. You know, someone would know. I think that would be nice. I was also, you know, when y'all were, I mean, talking about incest, you know, that lovely topic. I think it's interesting that they were rich, and because I live in the Deep South in the United States, in the Deep South, and it's consistently like a joke that people in the Deep South are like very into incest and you know and stuff like that. And it was always like kind of put on like, you know, poor people do this thing and you know the rednecks do this thing and I mean it's disgusting. But I also remember, like, me and my cousins would hang out, and somebody would be like, "Y'all aren't kissing cousins, are you?" And I was just like, "Why would you say that to children?" You know?
Yeah.
It was disgusting. So just seeing that, like, and seeing them being these rich people who are garbage people, it was nice that it wasn't put on people that were like lower class getting, you know, called these things. So I was like, that's always the kind of narrative here, you know. So
yeah.
I liked the switch.
Yeah.
It was a really good subversion.
Yeah.
Especially because I feel like historically it was done amongst a lot of the wealthy families. So
Exactly. Yeah. I think it was for the same reason you mentioned earlier with with the purebloods, with the
Yeah.
in Harry Potter. It's the same. That was their view of it.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
nasty.
Yeah, it was very disturbing because
Mhm.
I only expect the incest part of it. I was only thinking of like um royalty because they apparently needed to preserve that according to them. But with this one, it was like, oh, but who even are you? Like, ew. Yeah.
Because they don't get to have the reputation because we just are meeting them now.
Yeah.
We don't know what they are.
Exactly.
I was gonna find the link because someone had asked too about the link to the
I'd also like the link too.
for the one I got. I know, Paula said you said you had a documentary also.
Oh, yeah. Let me look it up and I'll give it
We
to
should
you.
drop this one while we're. I don't know how to spell Habsburg. I think it is E or U. I think it's E. Found it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share that one in here. I'm trying to see how I can do this without clicking on the video. Bam. Wait, nope. I did this wrong. I'm so bad at technology. Oh, it says 72 seconds on it because that's how far I was in. So it's
Oh,
it's
I thought
not
you were going to say the whole video was 72 seconds.
no. It says it. So when you click on the link, it's gonna take you to the 70 second. That's hard to say. It's gonna take you that far in, so you gotta start it over.
Oh,
That's where I was when I.
I posted mine in the private chat.
Okay, cool. Do you want me to post it in the main chat?
Yeah, sure. I like this one because it's very short. It's like 11 minutes.
Yes, oh, absolutely. And the one I posted is like 10:37. Is that what I just saw? Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, I love short videos.
Me too. Because it's like I want all the information. None of this extra B-roll stuff. Just give me the info. Rena also said
Yeah.
this right here. Oh, let me fix my thing here. So the Gothicness is also tied to the English family, which is interesting with the Gothic novels coming from England. I thought that was really cool too because I was like, so Gothic novels are always set here. I'm like, but this is obviously not in England. And I was like, but these
Yeah.
people are. And I like how he at the beginning was like, yeah, he wanted to have his own piece of England here or something.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's like, sounds about right. Sounds very English. To say.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do you think was the author's sort of purpose in writing this? What do you think her goal was, or things that she wanted to get across?
Ooh, I wish I knew.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I feel like she talks a lot about both in the book and on Twitter about the book. She says that there's a lot of like eugenics talk about colonialism and colorism, and I think that that's a way to sort of interpret it, just to realize how badly all of that colonialist ideals affected Mexico and still affected to this day. And more specifically, like this is just me nitpicking the book, to be honest, because there's a part where Noemi is talking to Marta Duval about the like this exchange of knowledge and cigarettes and money and stuff, and she's like, oh, you're expensive, and I'm like, excuse me, you're a socialite, you're rich, you can afford give her another cigarette, you can afford to give her a little bit more money, which is like an ongoing conversation that I had in college about people trying to get like bargain prices from people who need the money the most. So I thought it was very interesting that even Noemi had that little thing. I don't know what to call it, but yeah.
Bad habit. Maybe. Perspective?
Yeah. It's actually a really good point. I like kind of picked up on it, but I didn't pick up on it the way you did. So that was It's really good. As far as the author's purpose,
perspective.
Yeah. As far as the author's purpose, I do think it was just I think she really wanted to take the chance to talk about a genre that is so closely tied to like England and Europe, and take it somewhere else and sort of, I guess, shed a light on like colonialism and like bring like sorry, I am not explaining my point well.
You're good. You're doing a great job.
Like make connections between the Gothic horror and the horrors of colonialism.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I agree. I think it's interesting because like the English like to take things, and appropriate things, and I think it was interesting that she was taking that genre that is so English and be like, well, that was mine.
Yeah.
And I liked, I did it so well too. I think that was great. Which also leads to the thought like about genre. So I do like to have a genre conversation. So she is very insistent that everyone classifies this as horror. What are your thoughts on the genre in general?
I don't know much about it. Like I already told you that I'm not that cultured and that well versed into it. Like I know Frankenstein, and I even know that he's not necessarily considered gothic because it's like sci-fi. But I really love it. I like the spookiness of it without necessarily it being about like the jump scares. I feel like it's a very smart horror. And I think that's super fun to read.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I think it's a really good horror novel while also sort of bringing ties to Gothic literature, which is a sort of proto-horror genre. It's definitely a subgenre of horror. And a lot of what we see in modern day horror is very much heavily influenced by Gothic literature. So I thought this book did a great job of being something completely new while also very much drawing from, old horror tropes and, the sort of Gothic aesthetic.
Yeah, I'm so bad at genres. Like we have a lot of books, but we have them separated by genres, and it's really hard when you get to certain areas because like we have classics, but some classics we prefer them to be with the genre they're in. But then like I wanted to put a lot of things in sci-fi and fantasy that weren't necessarily those things, so we ended up just making like a paranormal section where the horror stuff goes and thrillers go, and so I just put it there. I was like, there you go. Because like I put almost everything in fantasy that has any bit of magic in it, and then I put anything in science fiction that has like any like dystopian or like super weird technology or mutant type stuff or space at all. And so this one I was like, okay, it has a lot of like science elements to it, and like some there's not really magic, but there's a little bit of fantastical stuff going on. And so obviously I put it in horror, but I was just like, there's so many other kind of genre bending things going on there. But she was really agitated because a lot of people wanted to classify it as magical realism.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and I learned the term magical realism on BookTube, and I learned it incorrectly. So like I was never 100% sure what the definition was because like I never used it because I just call it anything fantasy that has any kind of like magic, because that's just how I classify like my stuff here, even though it might not be the actual like genre. So I never understood fully what magical realism was, like correctly at least. So
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're good. You're good.
I wouldn't classify this book as magical realism. Honestly, just I couldn't tell you specifically what would classify a book as magical realism other than I know it when I see it. But I don't know. There's something about this book that feels so genuinely like a horror. And I do think it's very easy for a lot of people to classify any sort of book by a Latinx author with fantasy elements as magical realism.
Yeah, and that's what she was saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I never even knew that was like a tendency until like I'd seen that tweet by her. I was like, I didn't know that was like the knee-jerk response to Latinx authors' work when it had any like fantasy element to it. So I was very surprised by that.
Yeah. I think like in order for it to be magical realism, there has to be like a sort of cultural magic to it. But I would not quote me on that. Yeah. I've only read a couple of magical realism books, and Mexican Gothic doesn't feel like it to me.
Oh yeah, no.
I want to make sure with it.
Yeah. Oh, so for anyone who's curious, I am also not like well versed into magical realism or anything, but for the self plug here, for the LHM Book Fest, which is the Latinx Heritage Month Book Fest that I'm planning, there's going to be a panel for magical realism featuring some magical realism authors. So check that out if you're interested.
If you have a link to like anything regarding that, then you are more than welcome to put it in the chat thing here or on the comments of that video, so that people can get to it and stuff. Yeah,
sure.
I think that's something that we need to all like educate ourselves a little bit more on, because I mean, when I first joined BookTube, I was like, oh, that's a new term I don't know, and then I kind of had like an idea. I was like, so is it just a book that has some magical elements? I don't know what it is. I wasn't sure, so I just never labeled anything as that because I wasn't sure. And then Fadwa was Fadwa? How do you pronounce her name?
Fadwa.
Fadwa. Okay, I wanted to make sure I was doing it right. She was posting about the difference, because she was very frustrated that people were consistently saying things were magical realism that weren't, and so I was like, oh, I'm so glad someone said something, because I had no idea. But yeah, I didn't know that was like the knee-jerk kind of reaction to classify things until Sylvia Marino Garcia was saying that on her Twitter recently. I was like, why would they put this? This is obviously a scary boy over here. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, this is very disturbing. But yeah. I also don't like, I know some of the basic elements of Gothic literature, because I mean, I made a book club about it. So like, I know some of the basic stuff, but I don't have like the scientific, like, this is the trope, this is the trope, this is the trope. But I thought it was really cool to see it in a new light, because I haven't read like a ton of modern books with the understanding of like, are they Gothic literature or not? Stuff like that. But yeah. I did mention like Hannibal is like part of the reason I made this book club, but like like the show has a lot of elements in it that I felt were very, I don't know, they were very Gothic to me. But
yeah. Oh, definitely. Like, one of my favorite scenes is when Catalina and Noemi are running down the dark hallway in their white dresses. Like, it just screamed Gothic. And the sort of like, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, like, very on the nose. I loved it.
Yeah. It like wasn't subtle. It was just they're running through the hall in their nightgown with an oil lamp, and like the sort of misty like grounds as well. Like running is like a very big thing, as well as just a mysterious, creepy house.
I just pictured like moonlight. Everything is just like, I don't know, like when even like that scene, I was like, and all you can see is like this weird blue light on them or something. And
yeah.
Thinking about it.
He's so excited. I'm trying hard not to scream.
Yeah. I loved it. No, and then I mean, there was way too much comfort just standing around the cemetery, and I was just like,
oh yeah,
couldn't be me. No. No thanks. I like to think that I'm like super chill with the creepiest. No.
Yeah.
No, I went to a college where there were so many ghost stories, and I was like, walking around at 3 a.m.
No, me neither.
No, not for me. Not for me.
Oh my goodness.
What part of the book did you enjoy the most? What were your favorite things about the book?
I feel like I already went through that.
Yeah, yours is the hallway, great
Aesthetic.
Gothic scene there.
How would you like to go?
What is your favorite part?
I really enjoyed the dreams. I think those were my favorite ones.
That was mine too.
The dreams and the moment with Catalina, more specifically when we found out that she was that she found out herself that the serum, I don't know what to call it, but the opium thingy was helping her get detached from the control of that. I was like, yes, I love smart women.
Mm-hmm.
So that was super interesting. I love that. And um oh, I love like the entire ending, like the chapter 26 was perfect because you can really see that Noemi is not she's not selfish. I like it.
Yeah, no, I love that. One of my so there's this thing. Okay, in mental health, because
Hmm.
there are these things called cognitive distortions, and it's basically irrational thoughts that you have with very little proof. And there's different ones, but one's called magical thinking. Um, is that where I was going with this? Yes. Is that the one I was? I was trying to remember if that's the one I was going to mention or no or not. No. Yes. Okay, so this is like when you do something and you think that this thing impacts something completely unrelated. Like for example,
Oh.
when a football fans, I'm gonna wear my football jersey and that's gonna make the team magically play better. But I noticed in like a lot of just what I've seen in like a lot of Gothic literature, it's like they take certain things that happen and just assume that this other thing happens. Like in Frankenstein, it's like I
Oh.
made this thing and like someone died. I know it was this guy, even though I have no proof. I know it was him. And it's like he has no proof, but then he ends up being like right. And so I thought that that was interesting with this one as well. And that's not exactly magical thinking, it's more the jumping to conclusions, but like it's the same thing. Like there's not really that much proof, but it's like, oh, I know this is the thing, and then he's right. And the same thing happened with her. Like the dreams like happened beforehand before she learned the information. And so that, I just thought that was interesting. Like, this is something I have no proof of, but I know it's true, and then later it's confirmed.
Yeah.
And I just always think that's weird because I'm like, well, how do you know though? What if it's not? Leave your minds open. But that's something that I kept thinking about throughout the whole reading experience. Oh, okay. I just make sure I didn't miss any of the comments over there. Last question. If you could ask the author anything, what would it be? You could ask any questions.
Ooh. Mm.
Okay, so mine would be like I kind of picked out which books that she took inspiration from, but I want to know if there were any that I missed. Like I would like to see I could have a full list of like anything she read or watched to sort of prepare or like I guess prepare to write this book.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I love that. I don't know. Like I feel like that's a great question. I feel like I would want to ask her more a little bit about her research process concerning eugenics, because I think we saw a lot of it concerning race, but we didn't see a lot of it concerning disabilities. And so I thought that was going to be the conversation um because of the beginning of the book where the dad is like something's wrong with your cousin and I'm getting worried, and I'm like, if this takes place in a psychiatric place in the 1950s, I'm gonna scream. Like this is not no. Mm-mm. Um,
No, I was about to
but
yeet the book across the
but I appreciated that there was a little bit of knowledge about it, but there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
That's also really good. I'd be interested in that as well.
Yeah, no, I was.
So I appreciated the mentions of.
I think there's like a
Yeah.
slight delay. But yeah, no, I feel like if it had taken place in a psychiatric facility, I would have immediately just
Yeah.
I couldn't have finished. I couldn't read the rest of it just because like the treatment of people that have mental illnesses like was so bad. It's still not great. It's still pretty bad, but it's nothing like it, was. So just if that had been what happened, I was just going to be like, no, because like the last time I went to Barnes and Noble, every book I picked up started with like, well, when I was in the mental ward, and I was in the crazy house, and then it just had all the words. And I was just like, this is the worst.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was glad it didn't go that route because I was like I work in a state facility. I don't need to be walking around there with that kind of stuff in my head either. So
Yeah.
that was nice. But I think I mean, if I talked with her, I would honestly want her to go through and like highlight every bit of symbolism that she put in here just so I can be like, was I right? Or did I miss something? I want to know because I just love symbolism. But also I would ask her if she was going to write any more books inspired by Gothic literature because I want more of that.
Yeah. I do too.
So I think that's something that I would.
Yeah.
It would be more of a request than a question, but yeah.
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 Oh, also, like, I just wanted to mention, like, going off on what you said, Kate, about it's how, the treatment is still not great.
Mm-hmm.
The Lying Game has, features different disabilities, specifically, I guess, I think in Spanish it's called psicosociales or like psychosocial disabilities. And it was so bad. Like the representation in the Lion Game series was so bad. I was cringing terribly when I was reading it.
Yeah.
And so when I was reading Mexican Gothic and anticipating it about um, the psychiatric treatment, I was like, I don't want this. Please don't give this to me, because if I see it in a novel in 2015, because I think the last book was published in 2015, something like that, and I don't want to know how they were treated in the 50s, because I saw a movie. No, it was not a movie. um a show called The Alienist,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Oh,
about kids with psychosocial disabilities. And it was terrifying. Like I would never want to think about the treatment
Mm-hmm.
in in those times, not even now, but it would have been very hard to read. And I feel
Yeah.
like I would have come in the live show and be like, so I didn't the book because
So I set
yeah.
a fire. No, I definitely agree with that because but I also agree that like I kind of wish that she had mentioned it a little bit more, but
yeah,
I also don't know if the world's ready for that conversation. Like, because I mean,
yeah,
we still regularly there's still so much ableism like every day. Like the hashtag, like Trump is unwell was trending earlier, and I'm like, just say he's a jerk and go. Like you don't have to always equate it.
yeah,
And I feel like that's we like to demonize people that are going through stuff a lot of times. I've talked about it way too much, but like like Kanye or and people like that, they immediately villainize the illness instead of the behavior necessarily.
Mhm.
And so, but that's a whole other conversation. But I do wish that someone would cover it at some point.
yeah,
Yeah.
Because I feel like
yeah.
it's just avoided a lot of times.
Yeah. And also, Kate, like you don't talk about it too much at all. It's like a conversation that needs to be had, and I feel like I've learned so much from what you post too. So.
Yeah.
I appreciate that because I always feel like I'm repeating myself again. I feel bad, but also the world sucks again. So I mean, guess I have to type. So, you
Yeah.
know. But does anyone? So it was called The Lying Game. Was the one that was really bad? Is that what it was? I think it was.
Yeah, the Lion Game series.
Series. Okay.
Yeah. That one. There's a lot of like ableist
Yeah.
terms thrown
Blinding.
in there.
Yeah. In case I ever
And
just want to trash something, I'll
there
just.
was also like the plot twist.
Hmm.
I don't think I talked about it in my wrap up.
Yeah. I shall
Um,
search it.
I don't think I talked about it a lot in my wrap up, but there's this the fact that these characters have a psychosocial
Hmm.
disability is treated as a plot twist,
Hmm.
and also like the villainization of it all, like it was very disturbing, and it was like, just like back to back, because it was like book 3, book 4, book 5, like it was just like ableism, 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 and I'm like, why are you doing that?
Yeah. That's unfortunate. Mm.
Yeah.
And then people still get away with it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Pretty regularly.
they
At
do.
some point, I feel like it's gonna get addressed, but
Yeah, that
it's
was
a
one of the topics that, well, I don't know if anyone's interested in knowing, but that was one of the topics that I was most interested in studying in my master's.
mhm.
Because we addressed psychosocial disabilities, but very little. And I was like, no, but I need to know more because I want that to be my focus, like invisible disability. So,
Yeah.
kids who might be going through something, or who and teachers just don't believe them because it doesn't look a certain way.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that there's a lot of like a lack of research,
Hmm.
and I wish it was addressed in a more um how do I say this, like in a more like less villainizing way, that's
Hmm.
also not as triggering as, like, I know oh my god, what's the name of this movie that was a book? Oh, It's Kind of a Funny Story. That
Oh,
one. I know that's own voices for depression and stuff,
yeah.
but I know people were heavily triggered by that. So I wish we had very honest stories, but stories that were not as triggering for people who,
Yeah.
might be going through that, or who have gone through that. Because I think those books could be very helpful for people who went
Mhm.
through it.
I agree. I think that a lot of things, it's like you can tell if it's aimed at the person or at the people that are acquainted with the person. Like, is this meant to educate other people, or is this meant to make someone feel validated? Because I feel like nothing does both. It seems like,
Hmm.
or they do things for like shock value a lot of
Yeah.
times, which is unfortunate. Because it's like it needs to be something that's more open. Like if we could just talk about like mental illness, like you would talk about physical illness, that would
Yeah.
I feel like it would open a lot of things up. I try really hard to do that, like in my day to day, like talk very
Hmm.
much about it, like I would talk about having a cold, um, because I feel like it loosens it up a little bit, and people don't feel it's awkward because it's part of the whole, it's part of my identity, it's part of my whole, experience in life. So I think it's something that if it was discussed more, I think it would be helpful. So
Yeah.
maybe one day we'll get there a little bit more, but little by little.
Yeah.
I do think she was really respectful of that topic. Even though it was just in there a little bit, it was very respectful. They didn't call it a loony bin. They didn't call her, crazy, which I hate. Ugh,
Hmm.
makes me sick. Like they didn't
Yeah.
call her these things, and so I did appreciated a lot of that. So
Yeah.
did
Yeah,
anyone
that
have
was
any? Sorry,
no,
you go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, like, that was very nice to see that it was not
Yeah.
seen in a bad ableist way. It was like, she
Hmm.
needs attention. That's it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Um, And I was just gonna ask if anyone had any like final thoughts or additional things that they wanted to say about the book.
It was really good.
Yeah,
I liked it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I was gonna see. There you
Yeah, me too. I liked it a lot too.
go. um, I am going to have to read more by her, and I'm really excited now to read more Gothic books. But yeah, do y'all have anything just to say since it's the end of the live show? Do you have anything like to add or anything, or to advertise, to promote?
Thank you for inviting me on, Kate. This was
Cool.
fun.
Thank you for doing that. I'm so glad I booked you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It was so
I had a lot of
fun.
fun with this.
No, I
Yeah,
love
me
this kind
too.
of stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
And so next month we're going to be reading Dracula. I don't know when the live show for that is going to be yet, but we shall see. Of course, I'll put announcements on our Twitter and everything. Yeah, and I'm gonna put. I think I already put links to both of your channels in the description of the video itself. So I think they're there, but if they're not, I'll check it out just to make sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for joining me, and thank you everybody that decided to watch and kind of be involved in the conversation and stuff. Ooh, we have one more. Any favorite quotes? Taylor?
I pulled up the Goodreads quotes just because I knew this was going to come up.
It's hard when you do audiobook to kind of remember the
Yeah.
quotes.
Yeah.
So what were your favorite quotes?
So I have okay. She was trapped between competing desires, a desire for a more meaningful connection and the desire to never change. She wished for eternal youth and endless merriment. And I really like that quote, and like also seeing that quote like now, the whole endless youth thing really sort of ties into the whole like theme of the book, or sort of like longevity or endless life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I like the one in the beginning when she's just getting to the mansion, and I don't have the book with me right now, but it says like she learned to rebel as she recited the rosary. I thought that was like really good.
That was so good.
I was trying to find my quote. I can't find it.
Goodreads has quotes up.
I just liked. I might need to pull it up. I just like. I liked every time that she was very like. Had a lot of that macabre, anything that had a lot of that. Like, one of them, a heart raw and bleeding. She thought in the image and lingered in her mind. Just like small little lines here and there that were just like very visual. Like I liked that kind of stuff.
And there was another one that honestly made me want to barf, but I thought it was super funny as well, like even out of context. Something I don't even want to say, but it was something like the phallic mushroom peeking through the wall. Thought that was very visual, very creepy, and a little gross.
Yeah. No, I agree. I have another one. It said the room was stuffy. The conversation of the others were whispers. If they were conversing, had they gone quiet, their voices were like the buzzing of insects. This was like early on, and like it mentioned the insects, and I thought that was interesting because also like when you're in a crowded place, it almost sometimes starts to, if a lot of people are talking, kind of turns into this buzzing and just kind of mirage of noise. And so I think it was interesting to see that when it was so quiet to have that same kind of feeling. Yeah. Oh, one of my favorites was at the end about Agnes. Which quote was that?
It says Agnes, driven to madness, driven to anger, driven to despair, and even now a sliver, sorry. I don't read. A sliver of that woman remained, and that sliver was still screaming in agony.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
That was really good.
That is a really good one. I can't find it. There's another the one about Francis talking about he didn't want to be like a cicada, where he was, I guess, like happily singing into his death or something like that. Like that was I can't remember. It was like a whole interaction, but I really, really liked I liked that. Because like literally I can't do anything because cicadas are surrounding my house right now. Like it is so loud every night and all day too. Because we're just like in in trees right now, and so like I was just like I didn't even think about it that way, but they're just singing their way to their death, and Yep. So that was mine. But that's
That's a good one.
it. Well, that's it. That's it for the live show, I guess. Unless anyone had anything else. I'm just gonna go ahead and close it. Cool. So check us out for Dracula. Check out the Twitter, the Gothlit Club Twitter, and I'll be posting stuff about, the hosts and the date that we're going to do the live show and all that good stuff. It might be a couple of days after the beginning of the month, just because I'm also doing the Monsterathon in September, which is like a whole lot. So it'll all be coming very slowly, but I'm off the 1st. So luckily I have the whole day to like get my brain together. But thank you everyone for joining, and thank you Taylor and Paola for hosting with me and all that good stuff. And I'm so happy that we chose this book because it's so good. But yeah, see everybody next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.